Here with me now is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, I was thinking, believe it or not, of Thomas Jefferson and the Barbary Pirates. Okay,
yep.
From like, what is it, 1801 to 1805-ish, I think. So imagine if his political opponent said, "Okay, you have to tell us everything you're going to do with Tripoli after this concludes." I mean, it's ludicrous. I mean, not that there aren't criticisms and so forth, but the idea that Trump has to lay out all the plans ahead of time to the New York Times, how does that make any sense?
Well, he's not going to do that, and the media and the Democrats are going to oppose him whatever he does. But the decision to launch these attacks on Iran is the single most consequential decision of the Trump presidency. Iran, for 47 years, has been the most dangerous terrorist regime on the face of the planet. For 47 years, since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, when they took Americans hostage, and ever since, the Ayatollah Khomeini and now then the Ayatollah Khamenei have waged war on the United States. They have killed nearly 1,000 Americans over that time period. They are the #1 funder of terrorism worldwide. Hamas gets more than 90% of its funding from Iran. Hezbollah, more than 90% of its funding from Iran. The Houthis, more than 90% of their funding from Iran. And then you put on top of this that the Ayatollah Khamenei twice hired hitmen to try to murder President Trump. President Trump launched this attack because Iran was a threat to America, and he is removing that threat. There are a lot of naysayers that are saying, oh, this is not America first. It is the essence of America first to take out an enemy who is murdering Americans. And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. And by killing the Ayatollah Khamenei and his top military leadership, America is safer today. And not just that. Last year, he launched B-2 bombers that took out the nuclear weapons facilities. And in the last 8 days, our military has been extraordinary, all but eliminating their air defenses, their ballistic missile capacity, their drone capacity, their Navy. All of that is critical in terms of reducing the ability of Iran to murder Americans, and that's what this is all about.
Senator, the foreign policy advisor to Iran's supreme leader had a message for President Trump today. Watch this.
I don't see any room for diplomacy anymore because Donald Trump has been deceiving others and not keeping with his promises. And we experienced it in 2 times of negotiations, that while we were engaged in negotiation, they struck us.
Well, that's pretty much what it was like beforehand, right, Senator Cruz? No room for diplomacy. It was all just a big head fake, and Trump saw that, and he's like, we're done.
Well, look, I got to say, there are very few times when I would say I agree with a leader in Iran, but I actually agree with that right there. You know, I spent the entire day with President Trump on Friday, right before he launched the attack last Saturday. And we spent much of the time on Air Force One and in the Beast talking about Iran, and he was asking my views, and in particular, should he engage in more diplomacy? And what I told him is the Iranians are liars. They are dragging this out to delay. The only deal you should accept is the deal that you offered Maduro. If you want to flee the country, you can get out. But other than that, any other deal, as long as you have religious fanatics who are chanting death to America, and mind you, those are not empty words. They are following through year after year after year, paying terrorists and killing Americans. There is no good faith negotiation. And President Trump understood that. Iran was also rapidly developing short-range and mid-range ballistic missiles. They were doing that to massively increase the cost of the president coming in later to take out nuclear weapons capacity. If you look at the first day of this conflict, Iran launched 350 ballistic missiles. Yesterday, they launched 15. You look at the first couple of days of the conflict on day 2, they launched 541 drone attacks. Yesterday, they launched 12 because we've taken out their capacity. And that's to defend America.
Yeah, and Senator, I want to ask about what the Wall Street Journal is reporting about your colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham. The Journal is saying that Graham traveled several times to Israel in recent weeks to help make the case on Iran, meeting with members of the country's intelligence agency, spoke with Netanyahu, coaching him on how to lobby President Trump for action. Graham said that Netanyahu showed the president intel that persuaded President Trump to go ahead. Senator, I know you all talk to foreign leaders, and that happens routinely. But speaking to a foreign leader on the precipice of war and seeming to be lobbying or being an intermediary, which this seems to indicate, is that the right way to go?
Well, listen, Lindsey is passionate about defending America, and he is on the road a lot. He's talking to world leaders all over the world. There are times when I agree with Lindsey. There are times when I don't. But when it comes to
what
the
about
threat,
this? Well, what about this? I mean, this is something of a totally different level, is it not?
No, actually, when it comes to the threat Iran poses, Lindsey agrees they pose a major threat to America, and I agree they pose a major threat to America. Look, Lindsey and I disagreed on the Iraq War. He thought the Iraq War was a good idea. I thought the Iraq War was a mistake. I think Iran is fundamentally different because Saddam Hussein was not murdering Americans on the scale and level that Iran has been doing. Saddam Hussein was not funding Hamas and Hezbollah killing Americans. And President Trump acted boldly to take out a regime that had been killing Americans over and over.
But we're not disagreeing on that.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Our point is working with Netanyahu so closely to lobby President Trump, acting as an intermediary for a foreign country. Is that appropriate? That was my simple question. I'm not trying to be difficult here, but that's that's slightly unusual, is it not? I agree with you on the other points.
I don't think it's a fair characterization that Lindsey is an intermediary for Israel. And a lot of the critics say, oh, the war is all about Israel. Understand, it's not about Israel. It is about America. The reason President Trump acted is to defend America. There's a reason the Ayatollah referred to Israel as the little Satan, and America is the great Satan. I believe if the Ayatollah got a nuclear weapon, he would use it. Laura, if the Ayatollah could kill you and me right now, he would. And that's why President Trump acted. And so I get frustrated with all the people who say, oh, this is all for Israel. No, it's not. This is for America. This is Donald Trump being the commander-in-chief of the United States of America and protecting us. And you started your monologue by saying this was not going to be a protracted land battle with troops there for a long time. You're absolutely right. That is not going to happen. But the president is acting decisively to take out real threats to the lives and safety of Americans.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Senator, it's great to see you. As always, thank you very much.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.